to another episode of Popcorn Heroes.
Yeah.
I am your host, Orlando, and with me, as always, the bearded dragon, Pedro.
Hello.
What up? And today, guys, we are going to review and discuss Star Wars, the Fallen Order.
Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order.
There we go.
A video game by Respawn Entertainment.
We normally don't cover video games, I guess. But
not really. It's very hard for us to all play the game at the same time. That's our thing.
And this just happened to be a game that we both played.
Mm-hmm.
You recently just beat it. I beat it a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
So it just gave us the opportunity to talk about something in the video game realm that's kind of relevant.
Yeah, that's true. I don't even remember the last time we did this, if we ever did this, but
we done it like here and there, but not enough. Like we're mostly focused on movies and shows.
Yeah, there's just so many of them.
Yeah, it's just so hard to do video games. They're more time consuming than TV
especially
shows
if you're
movies.
A completionist like me. But this time I didn't give a fuck about the completionism.
Which is good.
And we'll get into why.
Awesome. So, like always, let's start off with the premise, and then we're gonna do our review, our rating, and then we'll jump into our spoiler review.
Cool. All right, this game is obviously set in the Star Wars universe, and it takes place 5 years after Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, the Fall of the Jedi. And I just read here, 14 years before A New Hope, which is the OG Star Wars. So this is pretty much following the time of the Jedi Purge, where the rise of the Empire and they're taking out all the remaining Jedi. So you play as essentially a Jedi on the run. And that's pretty much the gist of it, to not get into any spoilers, but you're on the run.
Cool. All right, so let's do our rating. What would you give it, 1 out of 5?
Okay, so I really wanted to give this game a 4.
Okay.
But there was so much shit in this game that made me drop it. So a 3.
Okay.
I give it a 3 because I liked it. I would have really liked it if it weren't for a lot of technical issues. Like, holy shit. I mean, I know the history. Armando was explaining to me the history that it was pretty much assets of a game that they kind of threw to this company. And EA was like, yo, you got 1 year to make a game.
I think Ragtag, I guess the project Ragtag that got scrapped.
It was the code name for it.
Yeah.
So this is pretty much they were in the middle of building a puzzle. They fucking drop kicked the puzzle, and then they gave it to someone, and they're like, all right, man, you got to do this in like 30 minutes. And then they try to piece together a puzzle. But when you look, overall, it looks good, but it's still missing some shit.
When did you beat it?
Last week.
Oh, so because it came out in November.
Right.
So it's been almost a month and some change. So
yes.
They still haven't patched.
Well, I've done updates, but it still doesn't do anywhere near the patches that it needs.
Right.
And I don't think they're going to do it because they're already working on the next one.
Right.
Because it's just like, bam, okay, not our thing. Now we're going to do this one from the start.
Right.
So the next one is essentially in a technical point is probably going to be what I wanted out of this.
Right.
But pretty much that's what it is. I like the story. I loved how it tied into the movies, the shows, even the comics. It did a really good job of keeping it in the universe and kind of rewarding people that are really into the lore. Because I noticed the movies obviously for the most part ignore a lot of shit that's in the other stuff. They're kind of just like, yeah, whatever, you got to watch the movies. But in this one, it's like, oh, you read the comics? Here's this character. Oh, you played you watched the show? Here's this stuff and this stuff. So it felt nice to see that. Like, I really enjoyed seeing that. And the cutscenes were great. The combat I actually thought was really, really good. I mean, could have been tweaked a slightly better here and there, but overall the combat was great. There's just a lot of shit that I'll get into later that's just like, why the fuck did you add this?
Right, just level design. Probably,
yeah. And I wish it was a little longer, but that's just because I just finished playing Death Stranding before this, where the game was like mega fucking long, and I loved it. So I'm just so used to big games now that this one was like, it felt like it was going to be a bigger game, and then it was just like, oh, it's over already.
I mean, I think it took me about 20 or 30 hours to beat it, so that was a good enough amount of time for me.
I'm just used to 50 hours. You know?
I didn't want more than that, honestly, especially with the problems that it had.
Yeah. Point. So there I am. 3 out of 5. I liked it. I recommend it if you're a Star Wars fan. But good fucking luck, and please definitely put it on easy or normal, because if you put it any harder than that, good fucking luck.
Yeah. So, yeah, I give it a 3.5. I kind of almost really liked it in that sense. I thought it was really fun. I like that I do feel like a Jedi. Like, I like the progression system. Like, eventually, like, the game is really hard on normal sometimes. But then towards the end, you're like, oh, I could take all of you out.
It's true.
So I really like that. I really like that, the power like of just feeling. I feel like after you get like a certain force power, which we'll talk about later, I feel like the game opens up a lot more in terms of like what you could do and like how you can like use the force into your advantages. Because before in the beginning, you don't really have
It's just dodging and whacking them, and it's not even combos.
And that's typical like game development. Like you start off with nothing, you start off and you end up with like the whole gambit of like moves and abilities. So I really like that eventually like you felt like a badass, you know. I just kind of this is like a side note, but like they do a sequel, I just don't want them to be like, oh, hey, you forgot your powers. You forgot
everything or you lost your powers. Yeah, I was thinking of that.
Because like I remember...
They do it every time in every Batman game.
Yeah, I remember I forgot which Assassin's Creed it was, but like it was like...
It was Brotherhood where you lose everything.
Where I think the place gets burned or something or attacked.
Your whole place blows up, you lose all your shit and you start from ground zero.
Yeah, which is like... It was kind of cool in that sense because like, oh, okay, it makes sense. But it was like... Oh man, like you know you're a badass assassin and then you have to start from like square one.
Yeah.
So let's like the next game starts off with a different Jedi, then okay.
I see what you're saying.
But yeah, overall I did like the story. I thought the story was okay. Like people were, in my opinion, like to me overhyping it. Like, oh man, this is like one of the best Star Wars stories. And I was like, this is okay. Like this is not like groundbreaking in any sense.
We'll get into it a little later, but I was actually overthinking the plot. I was like really getting in depth to it, and then I'm just like, oh, it wasn't that deep. Never mind.
I thought it was fine. I thought this was like a not by the numbers, but pretty typical story.
I agree with you. I thought it would be more, and it was very good.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. But I guess like the reviews kind of like had me thinking like, oh man, this is gonna be a stellar story. And I guess KOTOR kind of ruined my expectations for storytelling.
Oh my god, I agree with you 100%. And we're gonna get into that because I was thinking of something very similar to KOTOR and it didn't happen. And I'm just like, why? By the way, for those that don't know, KOTOR is Knights of the Old Republic,
a game that came out on Xbox and PC. Like almost like 15 years ago.
And it is pretty much the gold standard for Star Wars games.
Yeah.
And it was the beginning of BioWare, actually, where Mass Effect and all this other stuff came in afterwards.
I would say it's the gold standard in general for storytelling.
You're right. Open world storytelling, definitely.
For sure. So when... I read a lot of these reviews and I've heard a lot of critics talking about how the story makes you make the combat's great, but it's a story that you keep going for.
Yeah,
and I'm just like, man, okay, what's gonna happen? I'm just like,
yeah. I do agree. I mean, thankfully, I didn't read any of those reviews.
Right.
But if I would have read that, I would have been like, yeah, it's not that.
Yeah.
But it is good.
I think the reviews did a disservice for me in that sense, and
that's unfortunate.
I read about the performance hitches and like the problems it had. So then it's kind of like you notice like the watermarks. You notice like the imperfections because you heard about it already. So like that kind of messed me up in terms of like how I saw the game. But it didn't take away from the overall enjoyment of the game. I found it really fun. Like I said, the powers are really cool. I found the characters pretty interesting. Like I found them like, okay, they kind of all played a archetype, a stereotypical archetype, but for the most part, I enjoyed it. And yeah, like overall, I think it's a great game. I totally recommend it for anyone who is into Star Wars, especially now that Rise of Skywalker came out. If you guys want that, like, you're just itching for another Star Wars story, this is totally up your alley.
Definitely. I would say this is easily this game and Mandalorian are the two best Star Wars things this year. Definitely above the movie.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
All
right, guys, and now we're going to jump into our spoilers. So, spoilers ahead. So yeah, let's talk about the performance issues.
Yeah.
The jumping.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not even the jumping. The jumping's fine. It's the grabbing because they tried in the beginning of the game. They're like, hey, climb this. The very beginning of the game is climb this, balance on this. And you know, we've played Uncharted like fucking crazy. So we're like, hell yeah, I'll be able to grapple onto everything. I'll be able to drop down a ledge. And little do you know, there is no drop down ledge button.
Yeah.
You can't. There's no circle to drop on a ledge. You have to go around the entire level to climb up that ledge again. And then there's a lot of times where I'm like, I should be able to climb that wall because look at that ledge just hanging there. And it's a different color. And you go on there, you can't grapple and you die.
Right. Another thing that I thought like a game design wise that like it doesn't really tell you exactly like, I'm not sure what's the term for it, but kind of like directions of where to go.
Yeah, it doesn't lead you.
Yeah.
With the light. There were some parts where I'm just like, I looked around and I'm like, man, this is a really well made level because there's a spotlight right there that tells me where I have to go.
Right.
It was one of the first levels too, which could have meant that it was early in development and maybe that's why they had enough time to plan it.
Right.
So like by the lighting, the shadows and everything, I'm like, I know I got to go there. I know I got to balance on this ledge and everything. But it was very 50-50. It was
for me. Yeah, I get what you're saying. For me, one of the in the beginning too, one of the spots I missed was like right in the beginning. I'm balancing on this beam. I jumped to the platform, and I'm like, okay, where do I go? And I don't know. I go back on the beam. I die jumping onto one point
in the beginning. No shit. The beginning was pretty good to read for me.
And then I had to go across like a narrow like hallway or like a narrow like piece of like building scrap.
Yeah.
And then I go to another section, but that was literally the first time I went into that narrow path, which in the game there's a lot of narrow paths you have to go through.
And we know why.
Right. But since that was the first one I had to do.
Oh, so you did. I understand.
There's no signpost. The game is not good at signposting. That's the term.
Yeah. I get what you're saying.
So like it's not like the wall was like scraped of like, hey, you can put your body here as if something went through it. It was just like a clean wall.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, okay.
I don't know why. I guess the game did prompt you because in the beginning it's like, oh, hit the left analog to go forward, the right analog to move. And I remember looking down and it saying, press hold forward to go through, the thing. And that's how I knew.
Tight corners, okay.
Yeah. But that's how I knew. You're right that there was no visual aid for it.
Right.
You just had to go, oh, I guess my character could squeeze through there.
Yeah, maybe I didn't read it, but there's a few times
But there was definitely an opening tutorial in that part that told you, oh, these little tight spots, you're going to squeeze in pretty much God of War style.
Right.
So pretty much, for those that don't know, those parts where there's kind of like a crack in the wall and you got to squeeze through and it takes you a while and there's like dialogue of you talking around, that's pretty much a loading screen.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, because God of War did a thing where they wanted to do an entire game with no cuts, unless you die, of course. And then that was their way of hiding their stuff. And this game does the exact same thing.
Yeah, games have been doing that forever. It's kind of like Mass Effect when you go in the elevator. And it's just like you're just standing on the elevator and you're talking to your companions. And like that's a loading screen.
Yeah. And then same thing when you're on the ship. When you're on the ship and it's like, oh, what planet are you going to go to? And then you feel your ship moving, and then it goes into hyperspace, and then everyone's having a dialogue. So that's how they pretty much trick you into forgetting it's a loading screen by having a lot of dialogue.
Yeah, that's what's cool. I feel that's fine.
I liked it. And he's like, all right, kid, have a seat. We're ready to land. And it's like, oh, loading screen is over. Gotcha. Yeah. But I thought that was good. I thought it was good that they did that.
So performance-wise, I feel like the signposting was a bit off. Like you said, the grabbing is a bit off. I felt like the combat, I played Neo before this because it's one of the PS Plus games that we got for free. And those are two games that are very similar, like that. Those like you're going to die games
multiple times.
But Neo is so smooth though, like fucking butter. Like it is. And with Neo,
because I was comparing this to Monster Hunter and Bloodborne and the one that Bloodborne Dark Souls.
Yeah.
So I didn't get to Neo, which Neo is the latest one in that genre. So I can see why you would say that one's smooth. It probably definitely is.
And Sekiro is also the
Sekiro, of course.
Sekiro's the latest
Again, one I have not played. So
yeah, I mean, I don't really play them. I played Bloodborne. I played Dark Souls a long time ago. I didn't really like though. Like Dark Souls to me, like I didn't like a level design.
I fucking hated the level design.
I felt like the level design was like, hey, go around this, and then you have to go around it again a different way, and it's like I'm retracing the same steps. It's very annoying. And, it's really slow combat. So that's really, like, annoying to deal with. Then Bloodborne was a bit faster combat, but it was really difficult.
Right. It was all about timing.
Yeah.
Which I felt this one had a lot to do with timing, especially when you're fighting the purge troopers.
Yeah.
In the beginning, you're just like, oh my god, this fuckhead just like does this perfect move that.
Yeah.
They're charging up a move, and you're used to the speed of everyone else before, so you're like, oh, I'm gonna block right here. Because you have to block perfectly in order to parry them. If not, you take the blunt of the force.
Right.
And then, when they do that little hesitation, you leave yourself open and they clobber you. That happened to me a lot.
So when it comes to like those type of games, I feel like this one in terms of like combat is like, even though it feels good at best, I feel like it's clunky. Like it just feels off. Like it feels like I'm not sure if I'm off in terms of button, like hitting the button and like the action going, but it just feels off. Like Neo though is a fast pace. It's a lot faster. But every time I died Neo, which was a lot, I played Neo for about like 10 to 15 hours, and I was still in the same location.
Shit.
Yeah,
that's fucking nuts.
And I'm really bad at those games.
I gotta get around to that one. That one in Sekiro.
Yeah.
Because
I got frustrated, but it was a frustration of like, this is my fault. Like I should have blocked and not swing.
Right.
You know, but then I got eager, like, oh, like that.
Yes. That happened to me in boss battles in this game.
Yes.
Where I'm like there's a quarter of their life left, and I'm like, I fucking got this. And suddenly they have a new like move set, and you're just like, oh shit, I'm an idiot. I should have blocked those last 3 times and I die. And then I'm just like, oh, I gotta do that again.
And so with this game, I feel like I said, I'm not sure if the timing is off or I'm just not doing it correctly, but I felt like it was just a lot harder to time myself. And also I just felt like the movements were very clunky.
It's not even the movements are clunky. It's the animations were like fucking jittery and fucked. Like
that's what it is.
Like, I kept calling it the Looney Tunes. So what would happen is I would do a finishing move, but I'll be kind of on a ledge. And then your character kind of like does this little roll around them and then does the slice. And it's a cool fucking scene. But if you're on the ledge of a building or on a bridge, your character walks outside of it. But he's floating there like fucking Wile E. Coyote when you realize there's no floor. So then when the animation's over, your guy just starts like jittery and freaking out. And then sometimes he'll fall. And sometimes you're able to dodge roll back to the platform on time. Yeah. I kept calling it the Looney Tunes. I did that so many times. Especially when you force pull a stormtrooper towards you from the ledge, and then you do that finishing move, he runs forward to stab, and then I'm off the bridge, and I'm just like, I died quite a few times like that. Yeah. And I would always yell at the screen and go, you fuck!
Yeah, and there's just a few moments of like that where I felt like the combat is just jittery, like something is off, like in terms of movement and stuff. It's not kinetic movement. It's not kinetic combat. Right. Even like, and it's like, but I felt the combat was fun though. Like even with those like flaws, I felt it was really fun.
It was still fun, yeah.
One of the things I also not. This is one of my mistakes that I just wasn't good at, was timing the creatures. So like when you fight a frog or you fight like the spider, like spiders, I couldn't time it. I just didn't know how to like.
It took me a while too.
Yeah, but I heard like now I was reading that there's easier ways to beat them. Like, if you parry the spider twice, you could do a finishing move. With the frog, you could take out his tongue if you pull it.
Force pull, which I did by accident. That was an achievement.
Yeah, and then you can cut his tongue off, which I did not know, which I haven't done because I haven't went back to the game.
He doesn't even need to open his mouth. You just do it, and automatically you see his mouth like fighting, and then it opens, and then you see the tongue come out.
That's pretty cool. So like stuff like that, I didn't know, which is cool. Like, it makes sense. It's like I felt the combat was at its best when you were fighting stormtroopers. Yeah, like that's the only time I felt like a badass. Truly,
I agree.
Yeah, let's talk about the story.
Okay. So, if you watch Star Wars Rebels, this is pretty much what's happening. This is what it is. It's the Jedi on the run, the remaining Jedi. They're hiding, and then they get caught, and then the Inquisitors come out. So the Inquisitors are pretty much these Jedi that actually did survive. They got captured and they got corrupted to the dark side. So they're essentially like the special forces of the stormtroopers, just going out to hunt the remaining Jedi. Those were only ever introduced in Rebels, the show, which was great. And then I was kind of like, oh man, this is cool and all, but they're not in any other like story or anything. And then of course, when you get into the comics, it shows how Vader trained them, and he starts introducing characters like the Ninth Sister. So it's So now that you play this game, you're like, oh shit, there's the Ninth Sister. Here are the Inquisitors. Here's the story of how they pretty much got all the Padawans and all the other people and just made them angry and made them their bitch. And then there it is. They're out there finding Force-sensitive children or Jedi on the run.
So that story is introduced in Rebels?
Huh?
That storyline is introduced in Rebels?
Yeah, right in the beginning.
Oh, okay, so it's not part of the Clone Wars then?
No.
No, right, because that's before. Right. Rebels is right before.
Yeah.
Okay, it's after all that.
Mm-hmm. So I love seeing that. I was like, holy shit, the Inquisitors are there. That's awesome. And then when I saw the Ninth Sister, I was like, holy shit, I remember you in the comics. So it was pretty fucking cool to see that, especially with Ninth Sister missing a leg. It explains why she's missing a leg in the comic, because Vader fucking chops that shit off.
Oh, shit, okay.
Yeah. Because there's one of the plot points where Darth Sidious is like, oh, cool, Vader, you're kind of slipping. So he kind of has all the Inquisitors jump him, and then Vader just fucks them all up. Just pretty much saying like, yeah, I'm going to train you guys. So it was pretty cool.
There are 9 sisters, or there's more than that?
Oh, there's a bunch. There's sisters, there's brothers. In Rebels, there's the 7th brother. I think he was. Yeah, there's all kinds.
Oh, okay.
They mentioned the Grand Inquisitor, but you don't see him. He's in the show.
Oh, okay. So he's like the head honcho?
Right, yeah. He's the one that pretty much Vader said, you guys are going to lead these guys.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then in Rebels, they revealed that he was part of one of the knights that defended the Jedi Temple. So you see that they all were... like
Jedis. Or
yeah, they all were Jedi.
Or Padawans.
Yeah, they were all Padawans or Jedi at one point that all had that slight... Well, the Padawans, they're just young, so they just get angry quick. But the Jedi that were Jedi Knights that turned, you could see that they all had like some type of flaw that they just like... turned on. Like used against them, yeah.
Yeah.
Like the Grand Inquisitor, he loved to like read and knowledge, and the Jedi were like, you shouldn't read that. That's dark side stuff. And he's just like, but I want to read everything. Like thirst for knowledge shit.
Yeah.
And that's how they turned him. But... pretty much, it was awesome to see that because I loved the comics, I loved the show, and seeing that here, I was like, man, this is amazing that I get to play through this and see these characters. So It really rewards people that are like neck deep in the lore, and so that's probably one of the reasons why everyone's like, oh my god, it's a great story, which I did like that, but there were a lot of things that was nice to see, but in the end, it didn't really. It was world building, but it didn't really do anything story wise, like the when they went to Dathomir, which is also a big part of Clone Wars, which is nice. So you have the Night Sisters that are practically extinct. And then you find that out if you watch Clone Wars. That's when General Grievous goes and kills them all. So that's why she mentions there was a warrior with armor, with multiple sabers that killed my sisters. So I'm like, oh, cool. There is General Grievous. I remember watching that episode. And she's just, one left. But the plot point where the Jedi was there, and he kind of like gets all like, power hungry. Yeah,
basically he wants to.
He was like a new type of Sith in a way. He wanted to combine the dark side and the magic to create his own thing. I was like, ooh, this is kind of cool. But then before I had a chance to start, it ended.
Yeah.
Like you defeat him, you kill him, or whatever. You defeat him, and then he gets fucking thrown in the ground. So I guess he could come back in the sequels, but I felt like that was an unfinished story. That could have kept going longer.
I mean, there wasn't really much. They didn't really flesh that out.
No, not at all. Like I know there's a lot of shit that you find collectible wise, just by looking around where you get to read like different scrolls and shit like that, and you probably find more of the story in there. But it's like, I don't want to do that. Right. I don't want to read 20 journals just so I can learn something that you should have fucking told me somehow. Yeah, right.
It's like I think when it comes to like knowledge like that, it should be like a nice like a nice treat or a nice teaser, but I shouldn't be learning the whole story through that. Right. It's kind of like how Mass Effect had the Codex. Yes. But you didn't need it, but it was nice. Right. It was nice that it was there, like the nice like dictionary or Wikipedia for that world. Mm-hmm. But the story, the meat of it was all included in the story. You didn't have to go searching for anything else. Yeah. Yeah, it helps out with certain things, but it's not needed. In this one, I felt, because I did read a good chunk of them, and I'm like, holy shit, I actually needed this because you didn't explain anything here. Right. Yeah. A lot of the Dathomir stuff, especially. But I'm like, what was the point of this? It could have been one conversation with the Night Sister, and all this would have been done. Yeah. So, one of the things that I liked in the video game sense, but I didn't like it in terms of like a world sense, is that so like all of the maps feel like video game maps. Yeah. but these are like people that like in Dathomir, people lived here, and like there was a society, a civilization, but there's like nothing that has
that says that there was
that
one.
Yeah, because it's just like hallway. It's like empty like ruins, but like there's no evidence of like a structure of like, hey, this is a house here. This is
I would say
living temple here.
With Dathomir, it kind of makes more sense because they got obliterated. But there were other planets where I felt like there were homes. Like one of the early ones where you kind of go through like a town. You couldn't go into any of the houses because all the doors were locked, but there was a town. And I'm like, oh, this is nice.
Right.
But in Dathomir, you're right. There was nothing.
Yeah. There's a few spots that I felt like, okay, like they could have at least made it feel like, yes, the people used to live here, but it's mostly taken over by...
In Dathomir, it just felt like these are the temples where people came to like go to church and like worship. But I don't see any houses. You're right.
Yeah, exactly. And I felt like a lot about that through a lot of like Zephos.
Yeah.
I think Zephos had houses.
Zephos had houses. And then when you go into that temple, it's just a giant Breath of the Wild puzzle.
Yeah.
Where you had to force push and pull the balls to like drop it. Like you're in a big pinball machine essentially. It was weird. And then I'm just like, this is totally Breath of the Wild.
So I felt like when it comes to like that kind of stuff, like world building wise, it's kind of like these maps are made just like a gameplay perspective.
So it took you out of it a little bit.
But not a story perspective. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, it just took me out of it a little bit because I couldn't see the world there. Yeah. If I had, there was moments of a world, but not really.
Yeah, I could see that really with only Dathomir. The other ones kind of made sense to me.
Even the planet of the Wookiees, Kashyyyk. I didn't really see. Saw a few little like huts that they had, but not a lot.
The thing is, you would see them on the trees, but you couldn't reach those trees. They're kind of just like in the background. So you're like, oh, there's a whole fucking neighborhood up there, but you can't reach it.
Right.
And it also made sense because where you were was the battlefield.
Right. I guess that makes sense.
And it was a base. Like you're in there and there was an entire...
right. There was that base, right.
Yeah,
but once you get over that, it's
once you get over that, that's it. It's pretty much just fucking animals trying to kill you.
So that's the thing that sometimes it took me out of like the world building that I was trying to do. Because I was like, this just feels like a video game map. Which is fine because this is a video game. Mm-hmm. But if you tell it... when I think about Star Wars, I think about a living world.
Yeah, yeah.
You know? And I guess going back to KOTOR, like in KOTOR, like you have your fight scenes in like freaking like a hallway of a spaceship, or you have your fight scene in like a random like building because that's you're in a living world.
Right.
So like this didn't feel like a living world.
You're right.
It just felt like
in KOTOR you'll go into like these apartments and you'll be able to talk to the people in the apartments. They'll be like, get out of my house, you know, like and then you go in the hallway and then bam, there's the Sith troopers.
Exactly. Yeah. So everything
that's true.
So like I'm not sure if KOTOR killed it for me, but I'm just saying, like, when I think about a Star Wars game, I think about a live world, and then these worlds were just made for, like, platforming and jumping, which is cool.
Definitely platforming.
Right.
Oh, my God, they fucking love it.
But, like, where is the world that you're trying to sell here to me? Mm-hmm. So I felt like that was a disconnect.
One of the biggest things that I absolutely fucking despised in this game was the sliding. Without a doubt. When I did it the first time, I'm like, oh, this was interesting. It's kind of weird that they made this entire thing for that. It's not like I'm going to be sliding the whole game. Little did I know I was going to be sliding the entire game.
Did you feel the sliding was really fast to control? I feel like sometimes I felt a few moments that it was just too fast.
No, it's not that it was fast. What I realized it was, because I died plenty of times on it, I realized that when you turn, the camera doesn't turn with you. It turns on a delay. So your character is moving 45 degrees, but the camera is still behind you where it was already. So you're practically oversteering, and then that was the biggest mistake with the sliding, and that's what I had to learn. So I had to learn to like turn slightly, like I'll just tap to slightly turn, and then the camera will move with it, and I was able to read it.
Right.
Only after that did I realize I wasn't dying so much, but before that, the fucking oh my God! And the biggest thing is, so in this game you die, like if you die for good, you warp back to your save point with all your XP lost. So in order for you to gain your XP again, you got to hunt down the motherfucker that killed you. And you need to at least give him one good hit. Like, he can't block it.
Which I do like.
Yeah, I like that.
Because it's like in other games, like Dark Souls, you would have to kill that person to get it.
So I did like that. I didn't mind going back. The problem was that kept happening to me with the sliding. So...
But with the sliding, it's different, though. If you die while sliding, you just respawn, like, on that cliff, next to the cliff or whatever.
No, like 100% dying. Because every time you fall off, your life gets pushed like an inch out.
Oh, so you kept dying over and over and over.
Yeah, so I started that slide with an inch of life left. That's when I started sliding. And then when I fell, I lost that inch. So it was a full-blown respawn game over.
Right.
So when I respawned, I lost everything. I lost all my XP, and I was about to level up. And then I see it. I walk back, and if you look up right before the sliding...
It's there.
It's there floating in the sky. But the only way for you to reach it is to do your double jump, which I didn't learn then. So I jumped, I missed it, and I started sliding again. And I was like, I totally missed it, so I couldn't get my XP. That happened to me 2 or 3 times. And I'm just like, this is bullshit.
That's a bad design, yeah.
Very bad design. It should have been before the slide.
Right.
Which, so you fought the bounty hunters, right? They were randomly around?
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
Yeah, there was one that totally got me by surprise because I had no life left. And they fucking destroyed me, and I died. Respawn, I go back, and I'm like, all right, here we go. I'm ready. I go in, they're not there. And I'm just like, oh, because they're random encounters.
Yeah.
They're not in the same spot twice. So if you get killed from them, all of a sudden on the floor, I saw the gold hue, and I walked over, and I got my life back and my XP back. And I'm like, there you go. It's there, waiting for me. That's what the slides should have been. Do it right before the slide.
Right.
Instead of double jumped on top mid-slide. It was stupid.
Right.
So it was just that little thing that could have been fixed with the patch, but they didn't patch it. And I know because I did like a very big 2 patches since I played the game, and that problem was still there. So it was just a lot of technical shit that I'm just like, why?
Yeah, because I played the game in November when it came out. I rented it because I didn't want to buy it. So I rented it, and I was like, all right, I rented it maybe twice. I probably spent like $15, like because I rented it over like weekends. And yeah, it was a problem that I had still. So I figured when you were playing, I thought they were patched those out, but that doesn't seem to be the case.
I don't know what they patched. I didn't read the stuff, but definitely all the shit that I hated was still there.
Yeah. How do you feel about this game has collectibles, and like how do you feel about like the collectibles in the game? Do you feel like
I like them.
They're okay.
I like them. You just go around and you pretty much wait till that robot, BT just starts walking on the floor, and then you kind of look around and go, why are you walking on the floor? And then that's when you know he wants to scan something random. I didn't like the fact that you had to scan random shit. There was nothing for you. There's no visual tell for you to know that, oh, he has to scan this.
Yeah.
That bothered me. But obviously the chests that were glowing and shit. And then those, I forgot what color chests they were, but they were the ones where BT would get more health for you, more stim packs.
Yeah.
I loved all of those because they all felt like, typical progression of characters. But it was just those random things of like, oh, look at this wall for some random reason. And he scans it. Oh, man, speaking of that, another fucking technical nitpick about this game. So you get the breather where you're able to breathe underwater, and then you learn that you could swim and whatnot.
In Kashyyyk, you get
Kashyyyk, and a few other levels too. Because I went back to the first level, and there's water there too where you get to go under. So here's the thing: if you open up a chest while you're down there, or you see something for BT to scan, he starts talking normal underwater, and I'm just like, you're underwater. What the fuck are you doing talking? He's having a full conversation with BT. Oh, hey, BT, what's up? And you're still with the thing in your mouth going blah, blah, blah. So I'm just like, this is stupid because they didn't teach the system to go, oh, the character's underwater. He shouldn't be talking.
Right.
So it was just that. I'm just like, oh, my God. It just... Little things like that kept taking me out of it and making me realize that this game was like...
half-baked.
Yeah, it was hastily put together.
Right.
Like you could see the seams.
Yeah, everywhere. For sure. I could, for sure. All right, so let's get back to the story. So
the plot, the reason why I was telling you I was overthinking it is because going in, I was like, how fucking shady it is that this chick comes and saves you, like right then and there. And I'm like, okay. And then she's like, oh yeah, I'm a Jedi. I used to be a Jedi, but I need you to open this for me because you use the Force. And I'm just like, this bitch is a Jedi. Why don't she use the Force to open it? And I'm just like, what are they after? Oh, it's a temple where you need like the light side of the Force to open it. And I'm just like, okay. And then what are we going to get? A list of all the Force-sensitive children? I'm like, yeah. This chick's an Inquisitor. And she was totally just there to help me break out, to gain my trust so that I can get her the list, and then she's going to reveal herself to be the Inquisitor. That was my thinking for the first half of the game. So every time she's talking, I'm like, yeah, whatever, bitch. Stop lying. You killed your Padawan, whatever. Like the whole time. And then finally, when the reveal comes in, the reveal is that the Inquisitor is the Padawan. And then she was telling the truth the whole time. I was just like, I overthought it. It would have been cooler if she was actually an Inquisitor.
I mean, the story, the reason why I'm just like, oh, this is an okay story is because, like, the reveal at the end, like, at the reveal in the middle of, like, oh, yeah, she's my Padawan. The ninth sister is my Padawan.
The second sister.
The second sister is my Padawan. I kind of turned her in,
Right. Yeah, I totally snitched her out. I couldn't help it.
Yeah, and we got persuaded by the dark side, obviously. Turned her in, and that's it. Like, now she's pretty much off for revenge. Mm-hmm. So, after that, like, the stories is kind of like, there's not really much of a story after that. There's kind of, okay, well, now...
Yeah, after that, it was predictable in a way that it's like, oh, we're still after the list, right? And I'm just thinking... Obviously, we watched the original trilogy, and there's not a bunch of Jedi on the Force and the Resistance, so we know they're going to destroy that list.
Right.
So I knew from the get-go, I'm like, all right,
well, it is. That I didn't know that was going to happen, but I just thought that was kind of dumb.
You thought it was dumb he destroyed the list?
I didn't like it, because the whole movie, the whole game is about the list. And it was kind of like... I wanted it to tie into, like, for example, my theory was that, okay, the list probably has, like, Luke or Leia on it. And maybe he gets to train them or something. But then later on in the game, you have that image. He has that image of, like, him losing his Padawans and they all get caught. That's what makes him destroy the list, basically.
Yeah. As I'm seeing that, I'm like, yep, it's exactly what I said.
Right. And so...
Well, when you watch Rebels, they're looking for the Force-sensitive kids, the show.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, this takes place after the game, and clearly they didn't, like...
you were more aware because you watched the show.
Yeah, so I'm like, this doesn't make sense timeline-wise if he actually trains them. So he probably just destroys the list, and that's why they're still looking for Force-sensitive kids. Because they're aware of Force-sensitive kids.
Right.
So it makes sense that they would learn about that list from this game, and then in the show, they're still hunting them. Even though they don't have the list.
That makes sense. Okay, so yeah, you had a bit more knowledge than I did. I don't watch the show.
Yeah.
So my thing
so that's why in my case it was predictable because I already knew the before and after. I just needed to kind of check the middle a bit.
Yeah. My thing was like, I was like, I just wanted Luke, I guess, because I was like, he's a kid. So I was like, maybe he goes and he watches after Luke or something. Or like maybe he and Obi-Wan link up like, hey, you know that kid? I want to, can I tail fight with you a little bit?
You should watch Rebels, dude. You're missing out.
I am, because I haven't watched Clone Wars either. So.
Oof, you're missing out there too.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. But anyways.
So I kind of wanted something like that, like more of a tie into like baby Luke, because that would have been cool.
Right. Which I'm sure the Obi-Wan show will get into, but.
Yeah, most likely, more than anything for sure. But yeah, I really did enjoy it. I just thought at the end it was kind of like predictable, and then for the whole game, since you are looking for the list for him to destroy, I felt like it was kind of a letdown.
Yeah. I did like how they kept sprinkling more of how everything's connected. And like, for example, in Last Jedi, as much as, we talk shit about it, there's that whole plot line that Luke totally shuts himself off from the Force.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, the fuck?
Yeah.
Just shut up. No one's ever done that before. I don't think it can be done. But then, of course, in this game, they have the girl, the master, and she shut herself off from the Force. So I'm like, oh, that's cool. You're still making them all feel connected. So I feel like the games, the comics, the shows, they're all helping the movies make more sense by all connecting.
That's true.
But I really did like that scene where, okay, so really quickly, I want the ability that this guy has, that Cal Kestis, I think that's his name is.
Yeah, Cal Kestis.
Yeah, he has the ability to, when he touches items, he's able to see the kind of, essentially the memories of the person that had the item.
The Force life, basically.
Yeah. Which is also used by a very famous Jedi that was on the council, and he was a pretty big part of Clone Wars, and he survived the purge. So I almost felt like he should have been the protagonist instead of this kid because they have the same ability, but that's a whole other thing. So through that, you're able to see that he touches the lightsaber of the Padawan that turned into an Inquisitor, and you get to see her side. And I really liked it because you also got to see the Master totally lose her fucking shit and use the dark side and everything. And the whole time I'm thinking, oh man, it's going to end with the Master totally going full-blown dark side, and you're going to have to kill her or something. Like, that's where my mind was going. I was like, oh, this is going to be crazy shit.
Yeah.
So she's about to, like, lose it. when she's fighting Vader, which, by the way, that was an amazing reveal. I didn't see that coming.
Yeah. I like that part where she looks and he's like, oh, avenge me or whatever. Like,
right.
Oh, shit.
And it totally gets fucking, yeah. So I'm guessing he killed her because he knew, I don't know, did he overhear that she was kind of getting soft?
I guess I think.
Or maybe she had failed him too much by then?
Yeah, I think in that sense, it was kind of like, I need this job done and you're not getting it done.
Right.
So it's like, get out the way.
Because he just came in and immediately just sliced her, and I'm like, oh, shit.
I think he snapped her neck and then threw her to the side.
No, he slashed her, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, he slashed her back.
I mean, you just beat it. I didn't remember.
Yeah.
I'm like 2 months almost away.
Yeah, he slashes at her back, and then the camera cuts before you see, but he fucking totally slices her up.
I like for a moment that she was like, oh, wait, nah, help me, save me kind of thing. Like, she literally was like, no, fuck this. I don't want this.
Yeah.
And you can see the fear in her eye.
Yeah. So it was cool. I thought she was going to like help you fight, and then maybe that's the Darth Vader fight of all three of you, and he just totally destroys all of you. But yeah. It was good enough for you to just run, which I liked.
I liked it because
I didn't want to fight, especially when that cutscene is over. It kind of like starts with you playable, and I'm just like, wait, am I really supposed to fight this guy? I'm gonna get like plot wise. There's no way that my Padawan character that just learned all his moves can go against him. So that's why it's good that as soon as you charge towards him, it's a cutscene of like no run.
Yeah. I like that because at the end of the day, it's like it is Vader at the end of the day. So like it has Vader, regardless of what iteration you're watching him, even if it's like the original trilogy, because the original trilogy doesn't make him look so much of a badass, you know?
Okay.
And then because it doesn't, you just know he's a badass, but you don't know how much of a badass is he.
Yeah.
And then obviously the choreography with the fight scenes are really slow back then because it's 60s. But regardless, it's the legend of Vader.
Right.
So even if whatever Vader you get, you have to still be like, this is the legendary Vader. This is the master of masters.
So you think they overpowered him in this game?
No, I think it's fine. I think it's kind of like when you see him in Rogue One.
Yeah.
And in Rogue One, he annihilates everyone in a way that you don't see him ever do that in the original trilogy.
So what you're saying is exactly what someone online that I was like talking with, we were doing a little back and forth. And he pretty much said the same thing. He's like, he beat the game, and he was like, man, they made him look so OP, kind of like in Rogue One. But then when you watch the original trilogy, he fights Obi-Wan like a little bitch, and then he doesn't do anything. And I'm like, but in Empire Strikes Back, when he's fighting Luke, he has that whole scene where he literally makes the entire room fucking start smashing into Luke. So I'm like, he's done that, and we've seen him have that power before.
Right.
So that's pretty much what it was. It just looks nicer with better effects.
And it's a limitation of like the 60s. It's fine.
And I was saying that the reason why he fought Obi-Wan like a little bitch is because last time he fought Obi-Wan, he got scarred up. So he's probably like, oh shit, let me kind of like go into this a little.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really think it's that way. I just obviously like, I don't think it's like that because you couldn't plan for the Obi-Wan
No, of
scene
course not. But that's me adding my headcanon to it to have it make sense.
At the end of the day, the way I see it is like no matter which Vader you represent, you have to represent someone who is all powerful.
Right.
Regardless of how you represent him in terms of like if he's slow in combat, he still has to be overall powerful in the Force. He just has to be menacing and like have that if he doesn't ignite fear into you, that he's not Vader.
Yeah, man, you really need to see Rebels. There's a fight he comes out in.
Right.
He comes out in Rebels, and he's voiced by James Earl Jones, which is awesome. But he's fighting like these Jedi, and they're both using both their hands to like wield the lightsabers, and you see them pulling their force into it, like kind of like And then Vader's just fighting them with one hand because of his like pure power.
Right.
But of course, when he swings, it's like slow, but he's just holding off like two lightsabers with just one hand. And I'm like, I like how they made him slow, but like just so much power.
Right.
And then the Force was pretty much his thing.
Yeah, you have to always represent Vader as if he doesn't
like an unstoppable
force. Yeah. If he doesn't induce fear, then it's not Vader.
Yeah.
So I did like that. I did like how the fact that like even before she died, she knew he was there. Like shit. This nigga.
Yeah. Like, straight up avenge me. Didn't even turn around and lift a hand. It was like, I'm done. Yeah. That's it.
And so I did like that scene. I liked the scene of him running away, and then how.
So when you were running away, did you die a few times? Like trying to figure.
Yeah,
I couldn't figure out that you had to walk on the wall on the side.
There's no signposting.
There's no signposting. They did a really bad job of doing that. Yeah. But so I don't know if you ever tried to just stop and turn around while
he's there. Yeah.
Yeah, I stopped and turned around, and he's there, and he immediately like snaps your neck.
Really?
Yeah, and you got to start all over again. Yeah. He lifts you up, does the choke, and your head just goes clack. And I was like, oh, I didn't think they were going to do that.
Yeah.
So that was pretty fucking crazy. So I'm like, all right, I guess I really do just have to run. Because I was trying to turn around and throw my lightsaber because I had just learned that move. And I really wanted to test it out. I feel
like move's so useless in this game.
It was completely useless because everybody deflects it.
Yeah.
It's only useful against stormtroopers.
Yeah.
But like if I used it against a purge trooper or anyone else that could fight back, they just blocked it.
Yeah.
Especially in a boss battle. I'm like, I just wasted force powers for nothing.
Yeah.
When I could have used it on a better move. But yeah, I love that scene. And I also loved when you actually see the master, this chick, finally start using her powers and fighting back with him. And you guys actually kind of do a little bit of damage to him, but it really isn't that much.
Right. You do enough for him to be like, all right, you got to wait. You pesky kids got to wait this time, basically.
Yeah.
Again, and that's already at the end where, like, basically you get the holocron and you're like, or is it the holocron?
Yeah, it's a holocron.
And then you destroy it, which, like I said, I don't like, but it makes sense now that you're telling me because in the show, they don't have the information, so it makes sense that they destroy it.
Right.
What do you think about, now we're talking about the character. We talked about Sierra, what's his name? Siri?
It was spelled Cere, but they pronounced it weird, and I couldn't remember. Ser,
yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Because I remember Shanti was watching me play, and she's like, that's how you pronounce the name? And I'm like, yeah, I know, right? I would think it's Siri or Sere.
Siri, yeah. I forgot.
Ser,
yeah.
Probably Ser.
Yeah, I did like her overall like story.
I was just suspicious of her for half the game, so I didn't really care. In my mind, I'm thinking this is a villain.
Yeah.
So I didn't care. But now, of course, they did the whole reveal. I'm like, oh, okay, I did like her character. I did like her arc.
Hopefully, in the next game, she maybe goes back to the Force and maybe like you guys train like Padawan or something.
Oh, that'd be awesome. And that's probably where you're gonna learn totally different moves.
Maybe,
from her.
For sure.
Yeah. Because come to think of it, the amount of moves that you learn in this game, there aren't that much at the end of the day.
No.
It really is just a few more combos. So if you start the game with this amount and then you just grow from there, that's perfect.
I can't really imagine any other moveset though. Unless they add some.
Well, there's the speed, there's the force healing. Like, I'm thinking of Kotar moves now.
Oh, okay.
Where, your force powers were like pretty fucking OP after a while.
Oh, yeah, there is that force speed.
Speed, healing.
It's so crazy.
There was even to jump even higher. All of that.
It's crazy that we talk about Kotar because it's like the movie introduced like these new like force powers, like the healing. But then you think about Kotar
did it.
Introduced that in a sense. And then force speed.
Well, speed was technically shown in episode 1. And I don't remember if Kotar came before episode 1 or not.
In what sense? When did these episodes?
In the very beginning, when Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan are doing their the negotiations were short, and then when they see the destroyers, they're like quick, and then they start running, and then they do this quick little zip past the screen, and then when the camera turns all the way, they're far as fuck away. That's the only time in the movies they ever use the force speed. The only time.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, you're right.
Because I watched them recently. That's why it's fresh in my head. I'm like, oh, there it is. Never used ever again, but there it was.
Right.
So I don't know which one came first for that, but definitely the healing was in Kotar first.
Right. But that is now canon.
It's now canon. So and it was nice because it kind of became canon at the same time.
Yeah.
It was in episode 9 and Mandalorian.
So that makes sense. But the thing is, the healing thing is a typical RPG thing anyway.
It is. So it's needed. You need a healer on your team.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it all makes sense.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that's going to be a thing.
Okay. What'd you think about...
And you know what? They might even play around with him getting like dark side. Like maybe getting angry. So maybe they'll try and mess around with some force choke. I don't know about lightning, but maybe a little bit of force choke or something.
It'd be probably cool if you can use that power for a bit. And obviously later on they take it away.
They take it away, maybe.
You're light or whatever.
Right.
Hopefully they introduce...
I don't want him to do the what Kotar did, where you get to choose, because that doesn't make sense with his character. Choosing? No, I'm tired of that shit.
Well, in Kotar you can have both abilities.
I know, but that makes sense in the story. I feel like in this story for Fallen Order, that doesn't make sense for them to do that.
It doesn't. Regardless, I do think Star Wars should explore characters that have both abilities. Mm-hmm. That's something that the games have done and the books have done, but that's nothing like the shows, but that's something the movies have done in terms of like, hey, there's neither light or dark, which we talked about before. That needs to end, of course.
How'd you feel about the character Grease?
I was about to say, Greasy Money.
I actually really liked him.
Greasy Money, baby.
I really liked him. At first, I'm like, this is just like the character that Jon Favreau played as in Solo. Obviously, he's not the same alien race, but they had the same vibe where it's like the fast talking, joking around.
Who's John Favreau in Solo?
In Solo, he's the alien with the multiple arms that dies in like the first heist. Spoiler alert.
Oh, that's him?
That's John Favreau's voice.
Oh, I know that was him.
Yeah. But anyways, that character reminded me a lot of Grease.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, it's kind of the same character. But then, more into the game, you're like, oh, this guy's got a fucking problem with gambling. And that's why the bounty hunters are on your ass and all that. So they kind of add more to it. Yeah. I liked it. And they can they can definitely dive into it. Like, he's pretty much the ticket to the underworld. So if they ever do any underworld shit in the sequel, it'll be through him. Yeah, which I like.
That was one of those things where like, like how you're saying that seemed like they got parts of another game and added to this. That storyline seemed like something that was like not originally part of that story. Because it was a weird thing where you're on that planet and then the ship comes down, like, oh, bounty hunters are here, and it was such a weird thing that was introduced, and then once you take care of that one mission, it's over. Like, it's never talked about again, really. It's
never talked about again. He just kind of apologized, like, yeah, I'm sorry about that. He's like,
yeah, thanks for taking care of that, and that's it. It's like, all right.
Yeah.
So it was kind of weird.
Yeah.
I did like it, though.
I liked it, too, because it added the random element of those bounty hunters being in random spots.
Yeah.
Which it fucked me over quite a few times, because there were rooms that were just full of way too many enemies, and then adding them to it. And sometimes the AI wouldn't lock onto each other, because, the monsters will fight the troopers.
Yeah.
And then the bounty hunters will also fight them, too.
Yeah.
But if there was at one point where all of them were attacking me, even though they were right next to each other. And I'm like, guys, please lock onto each other for a minute because I can't breathe.
I think they found a common enemy in you.
Yeah. So it was like, I was like, yeah, whatever, man. I like that they added Saw Gerrera, although I kind of wish his part was a little more important. It really was just a throwaway cameo. But it was cool that it was actually Forrest Whitaker that threw him in. And again, that's another thing. Obviously, he's famous now because of Rogue One. But before that, he was in Clone Wars, like super young. And then after Rogue One, they put him in Rebels, also played by Forrest Whitaker. So again, it just ties into that whole part of the story. It was just nice to see. Again, I wish he was a bigger part, but hey, whatever.
Yeah. One of the things I do like, we talked about some of the gameplay. What's really cool is sometimes the animations. We talked about like the killing moves that you can do, like the one kill moves, which are pretty cool. There are some time when you're fighting like the purge troopers that are pretty cool, where like there's one that has like a staff, and if you force pull him, he like puts his staff down.
I love that.
And he's like, nah, fuck this, you ain't taking me. Like, that is super cool.
Have you kept pulling him after that?
No, what happens?
He lets go and he charges at you, but he has the trident aiming at you. So when you force pull him, he'll just run into you and stab you.
That's so cool.
Because I did the same thing. I was pulling and I'm like, nah, bitch, come to me. And then when he was coming, I'm like, oh, Jake, just kidding.
Yeah.
That also happened with the Knight Brothers. When you do force push on the Knight Brothers, when you push them, they would do a backflip and catch their balance.
Yeah.
So everywhere else, all the other enemies will get thrown up and like hit the wall and fall. Not them. They would always catch their balance.
And I did like that.
I'm like, oh shit, not everything is that easy.
Yeah, I did like that. There's sometimes where like some of the purge troopers, you can push them if you like hold down your push hard enough.
Yeah, really strong.
Yeah,
right.
So I just pushed them off the ledge. Like
I did that quite a few times too. Or I would do the those fucking droids, like, the black droids that are like floating around.
Yeah, you would like hit them and detonate them around.
I'll just force pull and push them into them. They're practically grenades.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
So I use that a lot too.
I could never time that because there was always so much stuff going on. Time that was always annoying.
You're not supposed to hit it and then
but sometimes to grab them. Once I'm already grabbing it, someone's already coming to attack me.
Oh, gotcha.
So I couldn't even like focus and like release.
Yeah. I did like the way you saved, that you had to go to a meditation spot and you would save. Yeah. And then it also played into, of course, the Jedi lore where they have to like concentrate. Right. It made sense that you would heal that way. That's kind of your resting and learning your abilities. That was really cool too. So I liked how they threw that into the story to have it make sense. Yeah,
it is like that's what they pretty much essentially took from Dark Souls and all those other games is that where you go into you turn in your skill points,
That's cool.
So
that's right. You're right. That wasn't Dark Souls,
and that's where like also the enemies come back.
Yeah. Like, which I like too, because there were a lot of parts where I'm like, man, I'm about to level up. If only I didn't kill all these enemies. Oh, time to save and kill them again, and then I'm able to level up.
There was a few points where there was like literally like do your meditation, and then the next room over are like, I remember there's a room specifically like towards the end when you get your your own Jedi, when you get your own lightsaber, like the one that you actually make yourself.
Yeah. Ooh,
there's that ice in that ice room. After that, there's one like there was like literally like a row of enemies come back at you back to back to back. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, if I die here, I'll just respawn.
And then you keep fighting them over
and over.
I love the bazooka stormtroopers. You would do the force push and you'll just shoot the bazooka right back at them. I love doing that. You didn't watch Clone Wars, but that ice cave is in an episode. There's an entire episode where you follow Yoda with a bunch of like younglings, and then you watch them all go through the trial to get their lightsaber. So when I showed up there in the game, I was just like, holy shit, this is awesome. We're there at the fucking thing. Of course, it's just, destroyed because of all the troopers were there, but it was still really nice to see. And even as they're explaining, like, oh, Yoda used to melt the ice with the crystal. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what he did in the show.
Yeah.
So again, it was just like, oh, it's so cool. All these Easter eggs, everything, it's all making sense. So it really felt like it was immersed in the lore. I think that's the best thing that this game did. It felt like everything was really connected. It wasn't just, hey, I used the property and here's some characters. And yeah. So, but good shit, man.
Good shit. Wait, one other thing we need to talk about, the double-bladed lightsaber. Did you like it?
Oh, yes, I loved it. But I didn't like just sticking with it.
Yeah.
I would constantly do if you hold square.
Yeah, you can hold square and then you can switch automatically.
And you can switch in mid-combo.
Yeah, that was always cool.
That move was my specialty. I'll go in double-bladed when there's like 3 enemies, and then I'll do the hold, and then I'll cut to 1. I did that in boss battles all the time, and it would really fuck up their...
the half-life, their health?
Not their health, the other one that I guess is like their energy.
Their stamina.
Their stamina there.
And then you'll break and then they get tired.
Yeah.
And
Every time I did that combo, it would destroy their stamina. So that was like kind of my cheat. I would go in there, do that combo, switch to single blade, and then switch to double blade. But I didn't think one was way more powerful than the other. They both had their strengths.
The single blade is more powerful.
Well, but I meant as far as I could just stick the entire game with one. I didn't feel that with any.
I stuck mostly with the
double,
the one bladed, and then the double blade I just used for like dramatic effect. Like I want to look cool. So, but yeah, overall I really overall the game is great. Even though we talked a lot of shit about it, there are some fun times to be had.
That's what I'm saying. There's a really good game in there. The problem is,
for sure.
A lot of the technical issues made me drop it down to just a good game rather than a great game.
I was talking to a friend of mine, and I was like, I could see the game, even though without the technical issues and like, as for me to be like, oh, the story's generic, but no one felt that way. Like critic wise, I can see the game winning game of the year. But so far most outlets have already released their game of the year and it hasn't won game of the year. Mm-hmm. Other outlets are not done yet. Like DICE is coming up still. So GDC, I think, but I don't think not GDC. Is it GDC? Another game, the awards ceremony is going to happen soon. So I'm thinking it's going to win Game of the Year for somebody. I could totally see it winning Game of the Year.
I think it will for someone.
Yeah. But most of the major outlets have already announced the Game of the Year, and it's been nominated but not won. Yeah. I feel like it could win before this 2020 year is up. It could win. I can see
that. I'm hoping that that the sequel is the sequel will be, because it's not going to be rushed. They're going to actually take their time and not use the assets from another game to make another one. So
yeah,
I have no doubt the second one's going to be everything we wanted out of this one.
Yeah, for sure. This is going to be the Uncharted 2.
Yes, agreed. Actually, that's a good comparison.
This is going to be the Assassin's Creed 2 of the series.
That's another good one.
Just another, the Mass Effect 2. Just basically, you take the beginning and you take the skeleton of it and you build upon that.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm excited for the second one.
Me too. Yeah. So yeah, overall, if you haven't played this game, well, welcome to the spoilers, because that's impossible if you heard all these spoilers already. But
right.
If you're interested and you haven't played it at all, great game, awesome game. And if you have played it, just hit us up at Popcorn Heroes. Tell us what you thought about the game. How did you like the combat, even though it's kind of clunky? We both enjoyed it for the most part. Mm-hmm. And what do you think about the story? So yeah, guys, that's pretty much wraps it up. And you guys can catch us on another episode of Popcorn Heroes.
Bye-bye.
Later.